Hey, I'm Jamie,
I'm Jess.
and today we're reviewing Longlegs.
Coming up next on Review Crew.
So Longlegs is the newest film by director Osgood Perkins, and it follows Micah Monroe's character of It Follows fame. She plays FBI agent Lee Harker as she's a new agent on the scene trying to solve the case of the mysterious Longlegs killer. And that's kind of the summary of this movie. So how'd you feel about it?
I loved it. I am just getting into horror movies and I thought it was a blast. How about you?
So I have very complicated feelings with this movie. I initially watched it out when it came out in theaters somewhere in the summer, I forgot the time. But I recently watched it as a day of filming and I picked up a little bit more appreciation for it, but I still have some issues with it. So kind of interesting. I kind of want to start with the thing I think everyone really got on board with, especially through like the promotion, which is the visual style. I think the first thing that I really liked about this movie was in the opening scene, right after the opening scene with the Longlegs killer and Micah as a child, is when they changed from the box graphic to the wide, and I was like, okay, we're doing something here.
Yeah.
I really like the red and black aesthetic. I think it works really well, especially with like the opening cast crawl, and they had like all the flash images of like the Satanist imagery. I thought was really cool, and overall, like as like a directorial like cinematography, like it is really, really good. There's a lot of emphasis on long shots, which I really like. Just like wide shots of like just atmosphere, and in the background they always include like a little like devil character for like, and it fades out, and it's really good. It makes the rewatch really appreciated, which I liked.
I really appreciated all the details in this movie. I was gonna say the devil in the background in some of the scenes. Just all of the little clues you can pick up here and there from rewatching.
Yeah, there's a lot of like interesting shots that I really liked. I really liked how when she was doing like the first investigative scene, she spread out like the 31 clues and like
So
the big
cool.
arc. That was really well done. I really like how all like the photography and like crime scene shots are implemented like in the slideshow, like when she did like that police screening thing, like the test or whatever. It's implemented in that way, and it's not just like random B-roll cuts. Like they're just into like the scene itself, which is really kind of nice. There's a bunch of really good shots I liked. I like how they had like a lot of like zoom outs on wide shots, where like zooming into a car or like zooming through glass through a window. I thought all was really well done. And there's a lot of like focus on like oblique angles, things being tilted. It wasn't very head on, but when they did that, it was still very well done.
Yeah.
So that was really good. I also really got to talk about the performances because I have complicated feelings with them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's gonna come down to the writing a little bit. I really liked Micah Monroe's character, Lee Harker. She kind of brought, and there's gonna be a lot of comparisons to Silence of the Lambs here.
Of course.
She does do a good job of being like, she's new here, but she's clearly experienced. I don't think it works in terms of like trying to force that police dynamic, where she's like an understudy and the police are like judging her for being the new girl. It felt really forced as like a comparison to Silence of the Lambs. But overall, I think she did a really good job, and even like the terror moments where she's freaking out, I think she does a really good job of like selling the horror.
Yeah, I think she had a great, like, very subtle performance, but very, it fit with the directorial style very well. It fit with the shots. I mean, the whole thing is so cohesive, and it really brings this vibe of like, you're on the edge of your seat the whole time, especially the way she performs it is so, there's just so much tension to it. I don't know about you, but I felt like tensed up the whole time.
I think when it comes to certain characters I didn't love her supervising agent played by Blair Underwood, Agent Carter. It wasn't his delivery. I think he had a really good delivery. I think he played up the character well. The writing really let him down, specifically in the dialogue.
Yeah.
Any dialogue between two cop characters was the most generic thing in the world. And I was like, there was like that scene at the bar where Harker drives Carter home, and he says like 5 like generic quips back to back, and I'm like, he's like a talk button. It's so weird.
Yeah.
But I think the most polarizing performance is going to be Nick Cage as Longlegs.
Definitely.
What is your thoughts on him?
I thought he was great. I mean, I think he really embraced the weird little freak dynamic very well in a way that I guess I didn't know he could do. I guess I haven't seen a lot of Nick Cage. I mean, he was great in Kick-Ass, of course, but he really went all in on this performance, and I think that it paid off really well for him.
Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't have expected a restrained performance from Nicolas Cage, but I had I kind of like the idea of what he was going for. He's not really scary. For me, I didn't get the scares. When I saw him on screen, every time he did dialogue, I actually burst out laughing. It was just like a primal reaction where I'm like, I can't take it seriously. But I think where the themes are trying to go, it's not supposed to be scary, but for everyone else, it is scary.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that dynamic in retrospect. I think, though, he is a little bit wasted, and I kind of have to get into the plot a little bit here. Because I think for the first pretty much third of the movie, again, this movie for some reason decided to tell its own act structures by saying like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, which is really weird. The Act 1 is phenomenal. Like the build of like her finding out the information, and then the scene where she like the Longlegs killer drops off the note, and that's what kicks off the second act. I think it's really well done, even if it's kind of annoying that she left the door open for him. It was kind of stupid, especially for a character who seemed like she was making smarter decisions. But that entire first act has you hooked. And that's something I will say. Is there any comments you have on the plot before I get into like really nitty?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've already said it. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I think that by the end of it, well, that's all the way at the end. But
I think one thing I will say is like the way it fed information was pretty good.
Was great.
Lee Harker has the implement where they imply she's clairvoyant, and it kind of makes sense as the movie goes on a little bit, even though it's not explained that well. But they have some aspect where she's like a clairvoyant character and she just knows things. And I really like that because it's like the audience can kind of figure it out. Or there's some things that like it makes sense and it's smart for the character to know this. So I'm happy that she's written as like she understands this. And I like how she fed the information about like the cycle and the dates in terms of like matching like the Satanist symbol. I think that was really well done. For me, the only issue with this movie is that the third act kind of falls apart. Once the Longlegs himself dies, you kind of just rush into this finale where the mom is the accomplice the whole time, and then Expedition dumps the whole reveal, and it kind of doesn't work. And then the finale was the most obvious setup thing with like Agent Carter being a dad and he's gonna kill the family. It was so obvious, and the film played it up like a big reveal, and it kind of let down the whole movie on my first watch.
I think that the reveal with the mom was great. I thought that was really well done. But yeah, I agree. I think that once you got all the information out there, it was kind of like, okay, and now it's over.
My only wish is that they played up on those themes a bit more. We saw her a bit earlier.
Yeah.
Because I think there was a really good theme of like protecting family and just family dynamics. It just didn't get all the way there. And it felt like they were trying to fit in like a new theme right at the end of the movie. And I was like, I don't think that's what the movie is building to.
Yeah.
Also, all the Satanism in terms of like is it supernatural, is it not, kind of broke me by the end, where it's just like some things were over-explained and they were like info dumped, and some things were left unsaid by the way of the reveal of the mother and like how the dolls worked, and I just don't know if it fully coalesced.
Yep. Well, I agree. I think that there was a little to be a little bit that I wanted still from the movie. It wasn't perfect, but all that being said, what did you think? What score would you give it?
So when I was watching this movie, I was really expecting to give this a really high review. I was going to put this in my like top tier this year. The end did leave me a little cold, and the more I think about it, I do like some of the thematic things a little bit more, but I still get frustrated at the plot elements and some things that really don't work for me. I do think the stylization's really good, and it's definitely worthy of a watch. So I guess I'm gonna give this like a 7 out of 10. That's where I'm gonna go with this. It's complex. I definitely recommend it, but I had issues.
Yeah. I would give it an 8. I agree. I think that there were some issues here and there, but just the general vibe of the movie and the way it keeps the tension throughout, and just the feelings that I had sitting in that theater, 100% made the watch worth it. So that's all we have for you. Thanks for watching.